Many months ago now, I made a video going over my opinions on G.I. Joe Classified Wave 1. I had intended to talk about the line as it came out. Keep it as an ongoing part of the channel. I wanted to review the figures I got too. Obviously, this never came to happen. I'm making this on the 9th of October. As of writing, I've had Prophet Director Destro, aka Pimp Daddy Destro, for over a week, and my Wave 1 is finally shipping next week, after a 6-month wait. Still waiting on my Arctic Storm Shadow, aka Ninja Force Storm Shadow, to ship from Amazon. I ordered it back in August, after much stress. I've yet to order any Wave 2 or 3, and I'm not sure what I'll do. To set a scene of where I'm coming from, I need to talk about my history with G.I. Joe and wrestling. Wrestling has been connected to G.I. Joe since 1986's Sergeant Slaughter, but I only knew about it for the longest time thanks to cultural osmosis. I had a vague idea of who Hulk Hogan and The Rock were, but that was about it. You have to understand, I got interested in G.I. Joe in a post-Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe. Ninja Force, Shadow Ninjas, and Star Brigade were my era of G.I. Joe. My mum introduced me to G.I. Joe with the 12-inch 1992 Destro toy. I never saw the cartoon as a kid, either of them. I only have vague memories of adverts for the Spy Troops film. I only got back into G.I. Joe thanks to getting involved with the Transformers fandom. I had seen the new sculpt era of Joe's when it was on the shelves, but I was heavily into Transformers at the time. Transformers' connection to G.I. Joe got me to pull out the toys I had from at the time a decade prior and take a look at the Sunbow cartoon for G.I. Joe. I genuinely enjoy the Sunbow cartoon. Unironically, I enjoy what I've read of the Devil's Due comics I got from around the same time. I steadily realised that I like these characters much more than the Transformers characters. There was something just really appealing about them. I think it ultimately comes down to just how much more relatable they are. With Sunbow and wanting to learn more about G.I. Joe's history, I learned who Sergeant Slaughter was. Wrestling has just kind of infected my realm of interest from there. Around that time, the boom of internet creators happened, and thanks to Atop the Fourth Wall, I got introduced to the insanity that was the Ultimate Warrior. Dwayne Johnson dropped The Rock as he became a major name in movies, not just the hokey CGI climax of the second Brendan Fraser Mummy film. Dwayne would later be cast as G.I. Joe's Roadblock in the more entertaining of the two live-action films. I started seeing films with John Cena in them. I of course knew who Ronda Rousey was, and because I liked the Expendables films, I got introduced to Stone Cold Steve Austin. I finally saw Hulk Hogan in something when I got into the Rocky films. I ended up looking up Andre the Giant because he was such a big name, and Rowdy Roddy Piper because he was at one time an Iron Grenadier, Destro's faction in G.I. Joe. But the thing that stuck with me was seeing wrestling at a Supernova convention in 2011. It was just an indie match, but I was completely sucked in. Yes, I know wrestling is fake, etc. But it was so entertaining. I found myself suspending my disbelief and just enjoying myself. I didn't go much further with it than that though. Not till 2019 when I got an advert on a YouTube video for the at the time upcoming film Fighting With My Family, a film I greatly enjoyed when I saw it. Now we've caught up to current year, 2020. G.I. Joe Classified is announced and I'm hyped. I know the reality of the issues with Sergeant Slaughter, and since I use Retaliation Roadblock as The Rock, I thought it would just be easier to buy Mattel's wrestling figures for both of them. I could get Roddy Piper too. I look up Sergeant Slaughter and the only one I wanted was a bit old, hard to find, and expensive. So I start looking at the wrestling toys when I'm out. They might reissue him or make a better one. I pick up a basic Rock and John Cena. T-Crotch aside, I was surprised how good they were for such affordable figures. Very well sculpted, decent amount of paint apps, about the same articulation as an old T-Crotch core figure. I think they're exceptionally nice figures for their price range. So I see a Ronda Rousey, I iffed, I ummed, I bought her. Really like her. Then it just kind of snowballs from there. Before I even got Destro, my collection of WWE figures was in the double digits. I was searching for specific people, and I'd graduated to the Elite figures. I was wowed by how much more fun the Elites are to pose. That thigh swivel alone. Over the time of me collecting WWE figures, what happened with G.I. Joe? Local release gets delayed several times. They come out in stores over a month before my pre-order ships. 4-inch comes back with an oof, then a really good wave too, but only at Walmart, a store we don't have here. Do I want to even start talking about the Cobra Island disaster? Store exclusive figures so hard to get that most American collectors can't get them. How about the fact that the classified line is verging on having more exclusives than normal retail toys? I kept seeing figure after figure I just know I'll never own. I can't buy from the Pulse either. I'm also not sold on the bland, muted colour schemes. Gung-Ho has to be one of the most boring, ugly toys I've seen this brand ever produce. Truth be told, at normal retail, Zartan is the only figure from Wave 2 and 3 I really like. For lack of a better term, they aren't toyetic enough. It's like someone took the worst figure from Wave 1, Roadblock, a figure ruined by a lack of vibrant and eye-catching colours, then made him the basis for the entire line going forward. When I got my Pimp Daddy Destro, I was severely underwhelmed. A lot of it was probably all the issues with the line dampening my excitement, and this Destro not really being a good toy for posing, especially with the cape. But I don't feel it. It's objectively a fantastic figure, though I feel the butterfly joints in the neck don't really add a whole lot. The butterfly joints don't even really work all that well. To say it's on par with the 4-inch Pursuit of Cobra figures would be wrong, but it's not as much of an improvement as I was expecting. I just posed Destro, put him on a shelf, took him down to take some photos with Ronda, but kind of just forgot about him afterwards. He made no impact on me. I don't really care, and I feel bad that I don't care. I'm not making any rush decisions. I'm waiting on my Wave 1 to finally arrive and sit with me for a week before I make any further decisions. But saying that, Classified is not fun to collect. It's frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. It's more of a headache than it's worth. It's not even really the current global situation. That has nothing to do with Cobra Island being a Target US exclusive that even Americans have Buckley's getting, that has 2 waves of mostly toys people would want. That has nothing to do with some 10 of 22 figures so far being exclusives. I'd argue it has far more to do with Hasbro being unable to produce enough, causing shortages. I think the tiny wave size adds to the frustration, little to be excited about. Me finding the later figures to be bland and boring is just icing on the cake. Compare this to the WWE figures. They've been fun to collect. Many have appealing costumes, they're eye-catching, and the line has really well sculpted heads. I even buy toys for people I'm not familiar with or don't really care for, because as a toy, they're appealing. Unlike Classified, which is either online or one specialty store, the WWE figures are sold at normal retail, and since they sell out all the time, turnover of stock is fairly quick. It's always exciting to see the restock because it might be a new wave. World Events doesn't seem to have affected Mattel at all. Hasbro seems to be the only one having issues from what I've seen. The WWE waves are decently sized, there are 2 waves to choose from, and there always seems to be at least one figure I want to add to my collection from either line. I get enjoyment from collecting them. I wish I could enjoy Classified this much. I want to love it, but it's a source of frustration. This is where I sit now with G.I. Joe. something I got for supplementary reasons became much more enjoyable to collect. I became emotionally invested in that. G.I. Joe's current line doesn't bring me enjoyment. Not because I've turned off the brand, but because of how it's being handled. As it stands, when I get these figures, they're going to have to really wow me for the complete hassle they've been, for the excessively long wait. I probably need them to be better than they can be for me to retain interest in the line. I feel conflicted. I want to like these figures when I get them, but part of me thinks it'll just be like Pimp Daddy Destro again. I'll get them because I'm now bitter and just sick of how the line has been handled. I'm not going to enjoy them. I'll still just gravitate towards my 4-inch G.I. Joe figures because they don't elicit negative emotions. Some of those figures were hard to get. There are still some holes I'd like to fill, like Monkey Wrench and Tunnel Rats, Alpine, Law and Order, a few others. But even with having to order from the US for those, it was never quite this bad.